Yeah, hi, my name is Kim and I'm from Specter Solutions, and I will show here and give an overview about how to develop with Specter, Specter Desktop specifically. And I have shared my screen, I hope so. And I have here a small, tiny demo environment. I hope that's big enough, and you can read it fine. So I want to show you from scratch how it looks like. I assume that you already have an idea about Specter Desktop, that you maybe have tried it out, that you played around with it. So it's a coordinator app for multi-signature. I don't go into the details here. They are usually, if you download it and you install it, they are kind of binaries for all the platforms, Windows, Mac OS, and so on. But it's also a Python application, and therefore it's possible to install it as a pip package. And the extensions which we're focusing on, extension developments, they are also developed as pip packages. And yeah, we can use the Python tools in order to install that stuff, and that's what we're gonna do. So here I have a quite empty directory tree and a source directory where I have checked out Specter Desktop. We won't use it yet, but later. So now we will create a directory and create a new project, because all my new source projects are always on the source. In my real home directory, it's a little bit more of them, but here we only have one. So we call it, I don't know, loans, and go into that empty directory, right? And what we first need to do is we create a virtual environment which encapsulates all the dependencies in that environment, and we are activating it so that, yeah, and usually here it's already empty because before I tested that, and so this shows us that it's now activated and shouldn't have shown before, should have deactivated it before. But anyway, so now we can install stuff in here. So let's install Specter Desktop. This is the name of the package. And at that point in time, we can already go ahead and start it. So this is usually the way how you start the server, right? So you start Python, and then -n gives you the name of the module, and then the command. And we have at least one command here, which is the server command. And what we also want is we don't want to use the default production home directory. We want to have a different one, which is the development config. So the development config is specifying that, and then later on in the home directory you will have a Specter_dev directory, and all the stuff will go there, right? So that's maybe better for development. Okay, so now we have the server up and running, so we can open it here. And that's how usually Specter Desktop looks like if you start it from scratch. So what we usually need is a kind of a Bitcoin Core instance, and for development purposes, there is the so-known called the reg test, a reg test instance for running that, and that would be cool to have here as well in order to use it more reasonable. And we can create that quite easily. First, we have to activate it. I opened up a new window here, and this one I closed. So we have this one here where the server is running, now opening a second window, activating again, and then doing a different command, which is Bitcoin D. And this one, by the way, it needs a Bitcoin binary somewhere on the path, right? So if I would type now Bitcoin D, it would start up as usual in the .bitcoin D in the .bitcoin directory. It would create the data and so on. So this is necessary. I hope you have downloaded somewhere. And then you can do something like not server, but Bitcoin D. And yeah, you have to do this no Docker thing here. And then we start it, and it will automatically, oh, yeah, first problem, we need to install a module called Docker. That's something which is not in the Crypto Advanced Docker dependency. So that's the reason why we install it manually. Install Docker. Great. And it's stupid because we don't need Docker, and I should push out that stupid dependency, and it's not necessary at all. But nevertheless, it's a dependency here, and therefore we get that stupid. Even we say no Docker, and then we get a problem with Docker. Yeah, that's it. Okay, so now we have a Python, a Python function within Specter Desktop, which started a rec test environment and gives us an overview about how we can access it. So here in Specter, you could click here and then configure the nodes. And then you have to switch off auto detect. And then we put in this stuff you can read here. So that the username is Bitcoin secrets. And the port is 18443. You can test it here, everything's green, you can save it, and now we would have a Bitcoin Core node. So we could, for example, now easily create a hot wallet and continue here, give it a name. Great. And we could create the wallet. Yeah, we could play around with it. Anyway, and here you see, by the way, that automatically a block is mined every 15 seconds, right? However, what we really want to do, we want to have a plugin in here, right? So there are some which are, almost all of them are incomplete, or they are just on the kind of wish list here. And we want to create our own one, and we want to show it up here, and then click on it, and then just start right away. So how do we do that? Well, we have at least an empty directory already. And what we can do is now we start again, but now we have a different command. We called it extension, X for extension, and again for generation. So we're creating a new extension here. And making that a little bit bigger so that it's nicer to read. So for an extension, you need an ID and you need a prefix. So the prefix is usually the organization or your username, something what is in GitHub, your username in GitHub, effectively, right? It'll reflect also the package layout later, and yeah, the ID should be a short string. Yeah, prefix is something like GitHub username or organization, and it will be used to create the directory structure. Yeah, great. So let's call it loans. That is the idea of the extension, and the prefix would be my username for now. I won't put that to Git. So this is just for demonstrational purposes, right? Then there's a possibility that the extension is running in a kind of isolated client mode, that is not something we want to do. Is it still recording, by the way?
Yeah, it's recording. Yeah.
We don't want to have the isolated client mode for now, and I don't explain what it is for now. Maybe that's for later. And now it's starting to create the necessary layout and gives us an idea of what we should do here, right? So first thing is we should do this command. I hold that now, and then we can do what has been shown before here as well. At the end, there is a debug. So debug means also that your that the server get restarted when you save something, and that's very necessary if you do development, right? That's not so cool for production also, but yeah. Yeah, so I think this is enough for us. We don't look into how we publish and we package it and so on. We don't care about that for now. So yeah, this one here. Yeah, so this will take care that the current directory, the source directory, is in the Python. That Python is aware of that, right? Good. So I think now we can start it again. Server. Maybe this time we do the debug as well. And yeah, and then here we can choose plugin. And here it is. Here's the loan service. So let's click it. Yeah, and there's one caveat which we probably can rid of, but it is somehow we did it in the Swan extension. So the Swan extension, we have secrets, and secrets need to be encrypted. And we thought about how do we do the encryption. So the idea was that it's more or less encrypted with the password of the user. However, by default, the authentication mechanism is none. And so you have a redirection here. It's telling us that service integration requires an authentication method that includes a password. So we need to set now password protection. We set a new password. And now that we have set a password, we can hopefully go look at the loan service, and here's our loan service, right? And yeah, it has some kind of random stuff in there, which just gives you an idea of how to extend it. We will look in a second to it. But for now, what I wanted to do here in the settings, there is a possibility to show a menu item here on the left. And because we will click that more than often, we just say, okay, yes, and then we click save, and then you have here the loan service. You don't have to do it this way then, which is more or less the same, and you have a kind of shortcut here. Right? Cool. So I think we need a development environment right now. So let's use, well, you can use any, but at least I stop that right now. I'm using Visual Studio.code. So I will now open the folder, loans, okay. Great, trust the author, yes. So what I'm using here is a plain Visual Studio.code. The only thing which I added here is the Python extension. This is really great. There are a couple of others which are reasonable. For now, I won't go into details, but this one is really necessary. right? So here's the layout, and we have here the source code, and this, I mean, the most important stuff here. There are also tests here, some, well, it's not really tests, but it's the kind of prerequisites to quickly write tests. So probably I should make a kind of example test in here as well. That would be awesome, but it's not yet there. So these are the three most important files of your extension. So the configuration gives you the possibility to to do kind of values which you need to configure, and you probably want to configure that different in a production system than in a development system. And so they are inheriting from each other. So the production config is inheriting from the base config. And then you might, maybe I should put some example values in here. Then the most important one is like this one. This gives you, this is a kind of a service definition, what your service, or we used to call it service, but now it's called plugin, and it's sometimes a little bit awkward. There is, by the way, also a documentation. Here in the documentation, you see Docs, Specter Solutions, Desktop. We have a user guide, we have an operational guide, we have a development guide, and here, for example, are some hints of how to get the core application running, and you might see some similarities what we did here. And then what we also have is here, where is it? Yeah, here, the third-party integration here. And that is effectively somehow explaining the extension concept. So you can read up about that here, what I'm explaining now, or at least sort of explaining how here now. So yeah, so the plugin has an ID, it has a name, you can change it. It has some icons you can change. It has a description. It has a blueprint. So Python has a blueprint, which is what we come later to here in the controller.py. Yeah, that's the controller.py. Oops. Yeah, it has a dev status and all some other stuff here, right? And that's also where you can put your business code for now. You probably later on, if your code base is growing, you want to put it somewhere else. But for now, you can put it in here if you want, right? Or maybe you can just immediately put it into the controller, which is bad practice. But for playing around and just getting started, it's probably fine. So the controller, you might know the kind of model view controller kind of idea is in Python, where or in Flask, where you put these kind of the annotations where you have effectively the endpoints, like transaction settings, and this one is the index, right? And this is very similar to, oh, we should start the server again, right? So it detects automatically the environment, but make sure that it's sourced. And by the way, this is the Z shell. Yeah, so the Z shell is, I can't live without it. And my tip would be, if you don't use the Z shell yet, use the Oh My Z shell. So it's this one here. I'm gonna make that bigger. Oh My Z shell. Yeah. And then there is, if I type here something like Python, you get something like the auto suggestion. This is one extension I'm additionally using here. GitHub ZSH -users / zshell auto suggestions. This is a really awesome plugin for the zshell. So I would highly recommend that. So yeah, server config, development config, debug. Looks good. Great. So
Hey Kim, can you please provide with the link of these because
Yes,
the
yes,
video quality is is not suitable for the.
yes. I will later put it into the
Yeah,
chat.
definitely, definitely.
Okay, so now I have to again put in my password. This is really annoying. And now it's saying invalid password. Come on, what's wrong? Ah, I should remember my password better. Ah, that's better, right? So, okay, the loan service. And this is really annoying because if you make a tiny change here, like a space, and then you click on space on save, you see that the the service is restarting again automatically, right? So you also have here these templates, Ginger files, and here might be also CSS and all that stuff. So everything will get refreshed automatically. But the downside here is that if you click here on main, it asks you for a login again, which is really annoying. So we will fix that first, because the reason for that is if an endpoint is annotated with user secret decrypted required. So here, this is the index. This is here, you see here, SVC loans. So this is the root of our extension, right? So because if you click here on somewhere here, wallets, and so on, right? This is directly stuff from Specter, but the root of the extension, and here we call about so this is an indirect kind of annotation. So that's where we end up here. And then we click on transactions, and that would be this one here, right? And it's returning effectively a template, and that template gets rendered, and that's this one here, right? So here's the index template. So yeah, as you can see, we don't have syntax highlighting. This is bad because this is HTML effectively, and so you can fix that here in preferences, in the settings, because we have Ginger, not HTML, and that's bad. So search for files, and then there's file associations here, and we can add an item, and the key is .ginger, and the value is HTML. It gives a brief explanation here, but that's what you need to do. Okay, go back. That looks much better, right? Yeah. So this is where we are. And if we save that, immediately it gets updated here, right? So, okay, well, that looks not that bad. So maybe we should now go and think about our business. So what we want to do is we want to prevent that this one, the reloading, by the way, from the templates doesn't, if you change anything in the templates, right, then the server is not restarting, but your change is there nevertheless, right? But if you, that was just happened. So that's the reason also why we don't have to go in here and need to type in the password again. But if you change anything here, and I click now save, you see it's restarting. Now I have to type in the password again. So loan service main. So that might make sense here in the settings, because at least that stuff here is stored somewhere in the secured space. You can have a look how this is working here. Go down to the settings post, and then you can see how things are stored via the loan service. So the loan service has some a method. In that case, I just thought maybe it's reasonable that the extension might have a kind of configuration which is pointing to a specific wallet. And here, by default, because we only have one, it shows that by default. And then there's these associated wallet method. And this is then the method how the data is stored. And just to give you an idea, maybe we can do that here. So this is the home folder of Specter. In that case, because we did the -- config development config, we have that folder is relevant here. Usually it's only .specter. And we have the for each user, in that case, we only have the admin user. We have the configuration here in that file, right? So we could do admin services. Yeah, and you see here that there is the loans the loans extension or the loan service, and he has some encrypted stuff in here, right? So that's where stuff is located. Okay, so let's go back here and put some reasonable things in here. Maybe just playing around here with the index, right? So first of all, we will remove this one, yeah, because it's not really necessary. And this, if we save it now we go to the main. This works. So we don't have to type in the password again and again, right? If we click here, yeah, we have to type it in, but we don't care. We implement stuff here for now in here, right? So what about having, maybe you are familiar a little bit with web development, and then usually you have something like form, and then you have submit, I think. No, it's action, and you can put in a URL, but you can also simply do this one here, and then it uses the same URL than the one which it got rendered from. And then we would do a button, and which is then type submit, and have something like, I don't know, send. And maybe we have some data as well. So we do an input box, and type would be text. And then we need a name, and maybe we call it, I don't know, device name. Because the first thing is the user needs to provide a device. We're talking about here the loan extension, which in a nutshell, the user is providing a device. We're creating a multi-sig wallet. We're creating an address. We give the user the address. The user is putting some Bitcoin on it, and then he gets some stablecoins back via Liquid. So that's the idea in short. And so the first thing is to provide a device. So we don't know how to do that, but let's try. So first of all, maybe the name of the customer or the name of the device are the same, something like that. Yeah, usually you need something like that. And maybe also a placeholder. Your name here. So we make it easy. the name of the device is somehow the name of the customer. Cool. Let's do a refresh. Works. So what we need now is, we could just try it out, but probably get nothing. Because I think we have to tell that the method equals host. Now we should get an error message. Still no error message, why not? Probably because you get both by default, both methods in here, I guess. But we can differentiate here. So if the request dot method equals host, then I don't know, print host, and then we render the template, right? Okay. Did that work? No. Method not allowed. The method is not allowed for the request URL. You have to specify it here, right? So that is, I guess, done like this. Takes get and a post. I hope I'm right now, because otherwise, maybe I'm wrong. That would be also cool. Oops. If you have a syntax error, then yeah, it's not method, right? It's something else. But if you have a severe error, then the server is just terminating, which is not so cool. But I couldn't find a way to fix that. So yeah, that's simply not true. We have to somehow figure out how this is usually done. I'm a copy and paste programmer. I have no idea. I always want some way to look at, right? And we could look at the controllers, or we could look at the other kind of extensions. Could do that here somewhere, right? But usually you want to do that in your environment, and you could also do it here, right? But usually I'm searching. Searching is always good. Something like this is maybe something good to search for, right? Yeah, and then you get methods here. Multiple like this. Great. So maybe that does it better. Oops. Try it again. Works. Type in the password, because we are probably somewhere in the root known service name send that request CSRF token is missing. And here's session expired. Please refresh and try again. So everything is usually protected with CSRF, which is a security measurement. And I thought at some point in time it's possible to deactivate it for development. But right now that is not the case. So what we need for that is every form needs a hidden input field, which is filled with a CSRF token. And then if you do it that way, it should work. Okay, try it again. Well, maybe we should refresh. That looks better, right? Host. You see here that has been printed out. Probably we should not do it that way. This is bad. You should rather do something like logger debug. Yeah, so debug. I can't see it. Try it again. I'm a little bit confused that I can't see it. Maybe I'm blind. Debugger is active. Well, I don't know. So for now, I stick to print, and so we could potentially also do something like put the content of the request form. That would be request again. I'm lost. Okay, let's look at source code again. So what I don't like here is that the content of Specter Desktop is hidden here in the end. So this is horrible, right? I can't search that. So what we do now is we simply add the Specter folder towards the workspace, and that is here somewhere like add folder to workspace, Specter Desktop, add, right. So we have an untitled workspace. Now we have a loans and a Specter Desktop, right? And here a lot of examples can be found here at server endpoints. Here are all these endpoints, for example, bullets endpoints here, and there are usually for request form action. This is the way to go, right? So we would do request form, and we call that device. Cool. So maybe just test it again. Oops. Resend. Okay, here, post data was great. So now we want to create a device. So how do we do that? So the thing is, like, here you have effectively the Specter object, right? It's a little bit easier here with the Specter function, because it's typed, and it's a little bit easier to use it. So we can use this function Specter dot, and then there are certain managers who are responsible for different kind of stuff, right? So we have a node manager, for example, which is managing the nodes. We have the user manager managing users. We have the config manager, which is managing the config. We have the wallet manager, and we have the device manager, and that's the one who probably is able to somehow manage devices. Maybe add a device or something like that. This is accidentally the first one here. Often enough, we don't have enough documentation, unfortunately, in here. So that's bad, but can't change that now. Maybe you can change it. I'm happy to, for any pull request who are adding documentation in the code. So add service. What we need? We need the name. Well, we can then use this one here. And then we need the device type. And the device types, I think they should be available here in Specter devices. Here are device types. but for some reason they are all the time in small letters, and here they are not. I'm not sure why that is. Anyway, might be a little bit. Let's assume that it's using Trezor, and then that's the most important one, the keys. Yeah, it takes a list. For now, let's make it empty. Just try out whether this works. Yeah, so now we could check here, and we've created a device, right? But it doesn't have any keys. So we could manually add more keys here, or we can create keys. So this one, it's probably necessary that you look on the one hand side in the source code, right? If I click control and then I immediately jump here to the method. Here's a key, and it doesn't help us so much, to be honest, right? And we don't want to know exactly how that stupid thing is working here. But guess what? We have a lot of tests. So we have a really high test coverage, and maybe the add device is used in some sort of test, right? So we search, let's Control Shift F for add device, and then maybe we only, I think we could only search in test files. And then you have some examples of where this method is used, and we could here is, for example, one a key, another key. Oh, look, so here is an awesome example, right? So we just copy and paste that. So we create the key from a JSON. And maybe it's also bad JSON. Maybe we should have something like this here. This looks also nice, right? So it's created via a constructor. Here it's created from JSON. You can use whatever you like. Maybe this is better. So let's use this maybe, because we don't have JSON, right? You can look now, it's not defined, and sometimes it works if I make a space here and then do a control space, and then it gives us proposals, but in that case it doesn't work. I don't know exactly why, but we have to manually insert it from crypto advanced.specter.key import key. That's it. And we have here the original is some text which contains maybe also the derivation parts, but in that case it doesn't for some reason. But you see here original fingerprint derivation, key type, purpose. So you could put that in here. And the details which the user could provide, and then you could create the device, right? So we could do something like this. Yeah, and now we have one key here. Yeah, awesome. So I want to keep it a little bit shorter, so maybe we could do follow-up sessions for specific other questions or so, but I think it gives you a more or less a good idea of how development of extensions works in Specter Desktop, and I hope that's useful, and that's maybe the time when I stop the recording.